Right, all week we've been talking about the impact of the pandemic and revealing the results of our COVID Kids survey. Now, in light of many children returning to school on Monday, some of the findings are particularly striking. 39% of parents say their child has developed mood swings for the first time during the pandemic. A third of parents say their child has become more attached to them. And nearly half of parents say their child is less confident as a result of the pandemic. And 27% say they've lost social skills. Well, luckily, we've got an expert on hand to give you some advice on how to deal with this. It is, of course, the wonderful Supernanny Jo Frost. Jo, thanks so much for talking us through all of this. What do you make of these stats?
I'm not surprised, to be honest with you. For over a year now, I've been helping families through this pandemic, and it's been really tough and challenging for a lot of families. You know, kids have been put in new circumstances, and parents have been extraordinary. They really have. So to see these stats, I think really is confirmation of how difficult it has been for every family across Great Britain, and how they've really had to try and juggle and recognise that with really not a lot of support at all. This is what we're seeing, this is the outcome. But I do want to say to a lot of families that there's a lot of hope in being able to recognise that where we let a lot go last year because we had to cut ourselves some slack, we had to recognise that we just couldn't do it all. And we know that a lot of families have emotional burnt out because of this. That there's a lot of hope with how we move forward in 2021 with respects to what we can put in to help our families.
You know, Jo, hearing those stats for me, well, as you said, not surprising, but one of the things that definitely resonated with me is the mood swings. You know, I've got a child that's 15 and another one that's 11, and sometimes they just seem so, like, tired or overwhelmed, and next minute they're happy. You know, how do we balance that? How do we, what can I do to kind of offer more support?
Yeah, I think really what's most important, Judy, is to recognise that as adults we've had that as well. So we've had to become more mindful and conscientious of where we give ourselves permission as parents to have more fun, to get out and support the things that help our mental health. So making sure that we are taking those regular walks and we're getting out in fresh air, making sure that we can be a little bit more conscious of the sort of foods we're eating. Like, I've seen an overplay on the treat food and not really getting out and getting that fresh air and getting movement. You know, kids had spent over, 6 hours in front of a screen, and then they weren't outside afterwards. They were back on the screen again playing video games. I also think that, helicopter parenting came into play, where kids were constantly underneath our feet and we were enabling them to do a lot rather than creating those healthy boundaries within the boundaries of our own roof. So I think it's important to recognise that if we can be a little bit more self-disciplined as families and recognise, let's motivate our children to sit down and be a little bit more organised so that they can do things themselves. Let's recognise the importance of consistency in a routine that supports sleep. You know, a lot of those bedtimes went out of whack. Parents weren't getting enough, we know that, but the kids weren't either, and there was no excuse for the kids to be in bed on time and getting the rest that they need. So if we can pull in with consistency on our routine, if we can really prioritise the importance of getting our 8 hours, and for younger kids more, 10 hours, if we can recognise the consistency and the cornerstones of those routines for meals and getting out and moving, we support entirely our mental health. It's important for us to laugh, for us to get together and really connect as a family, not just be in the house, but do things together that are intentional. And at the same time, we've got to decompress. We've got to have those laughs and be really mindful. Be really mindful of that screen time, because our kids are spending enough already. And that can create irritability, so can blood sugar levels going up and down. And we all know what a lack of sleep does for an entire family.
That's brilliant, Jo. That's all so brilliant. So a third of the parents that we asked say that their children have become too attached during lockdown, and that's so true for my children. I've got one child that's really anxious about returning to school, and we're trying to do lots of different things to try and bridge that gap. What would you suggest for other parents of children who are feeling anxious about returning to school next week?
Yeah, I think we've got to really, number one, validate how they're feeling. I mean, it's normal for them to feel that way. I think it's incredibly important to lay down what to expect. like the protocols, the safety rules. I think it's important for older kids to know that as much as a slow start Great Britain got onto, we're now in a really great place with vaccines, you know, and there's a lot of hope behind those numbers. And I think it's really about taking it one day at a time, letting these kids know, look, there's going to be protocols, classrooms are going to look different. But here's what's going to happen when you go. You're going to see your friends. You're going to actually, you know, connect with them again, which is really exciting, isn't it? You know, and being able to talk about how they feel coming together in a classroom. So when they feel, really all boils down again, Kelly, to a child feeling safe and secure, whether they're at home or whether they're in a school environment. And if we can set out that scenario for them and then take it one day at a time, we'll alleviate how they feel, because we'll support them emotionally with how they're feeling, understanding that, and then what to expect when they are at school. The good thing is kids have got muscle memory. So even though they have this excitement, this nervousness, and they're anxious, once they're in there and they're back in the classroom and they're seeing their friends, we hope that will all swim back again for them.
Oh, Jo, I
That's
just feel like I
brilliant.
need you on
Yeah.
speed dial. You talk so much sense, but you're going to stick with us over the break, aren't you? Because you'll be answering questions, our own questions and our own parenting dilemmas, including how to get your kids to stay in their own beds through the night. Jo, that's my question. I really need your help. So much for sticking with us, Jo, because I had a very important question.
Thank you.
My eldest is 3.5 and his sleeping was completely fine pre-pandemic, but since the pandemic kicked off, he's been coming in the middle of the night and at the same time between 10:30 and 11:30 at night. And quite frankly, Jo, I'm tired. I'm tired. He spends a lot of the night kicking me in the back. So any advice to try and get him to stay in his own bed for the whole night?
Yes, you've got to look at the daytime first. So you've got to look at the amount of presence that you're actually spending with your 3.5-year-old, because they know at 10, 11 o'clock at night you're tired and they're coming into the bed because you're not going to take them back. Yeah. So kids want predictability. They want safety and security. Be consistent with your routine. Don't go off track. And don't teach your kids through that transition that it's okay to have a daytime conversation. It's nighttime now. So it's important that they go through the transition of the bedtime routine, that you're consistent with it, that you put them to bed, knowing what a great day it's been, what they're going to look forward to tomorrow, and then follow through with placing your child back to bed when they get back up. If you start making leeways and excuses, and 3.5-year-olds, they've got a whole book of excuses of why they need to be up.
Really do.
But if they're sneaking into bed, then you have to be consistent. They'll try and challenge you, but you have to remain on point. And successfully, all of these families that have been having that problem recognise that if they concentrate on the daytime, they get those results in the evening. They go hand in hand.
I'm going to try and be strong for you, Jo. I'm going to try and take your advice and be strong. But look, all of these sort of pandemic issues are something that you deal with your new series that kicks off tonight.
Yes, it is at 9 o'clock. All that you're going to see, whether you're, you know, with your partner working out who's taking those responsibilities, whether you're dealing with food challenges, whether there's been too much screen time, and that's really bled into family time. I'm really excited for a lot of families to be watching this series now of Supernanny, because they're going to get the help. They're going to get the take-home advice. And it's really going to prompt a lot of families to talk about how they can change their own family circumstance for the better. So, you know, for me, it's always a pleasure to be able to help any family that's brave enough to say, hey, we need some help, because you get to help so many other families in the interim of it all.
Jo, nice to meet you. I just wanted to find out, you know, you have this naughty step. Do you still use the naughty step? And what's the reaction of parents to your parenting skills, the way that you do things?
Well, I think really only a naughty step is warranted if there's a consequence and the application is correct. What I have seen is that a lot of parents will go to a naughty step to control a behaviour. And you've got to teach a child how to sit at a table longer and how to incorporate table manners. Telling a child to go to the naughty step because of that is not really teaching them a life skill, is it? So the application of a naughty step is important. I do still use it. It does work for consequence, but the application is what I want to tell to families. Think twice before you use that. You've got to teach a child a lot, not about controlling, a child by placing them into a timeout. That's for a consequence, and there's a difference between the both.
Jo, you know, we've got a minute and I need to ask you these questions. As a single parent, I think one of my challenges is, you know, working, which I'm grateful for, but leaving the kids, knowing they're not at school, and just that constant, have you logged on? Have you, Mum, I've lost my password? What, you know, trying to have that balance between being a single parent and working and knowing you have to still have that structure at home. Is there any advice you could give regarding that?
Yeah, I don't honestly think that's going to change. I don't think there's a magic wand for that. You know, you're grateful to be working. Setting the kids to task, I think, is really important, and trusting them to be able to do that is key. And I think giving them responsibilities at home creates more emotional maturity. But do I think that's completely gone? No, I don't. I think there are going to be times where you just have to check in, and as soon as you can see that that's being done, I would advise any parents just to let go a little bit. Otherwise, you enable them to keep relying on you, and then you go into the mode of micromanaging. Right. So when you can give them other little responsibilities, you create the maturity for them to step up and show you and be trusted. So I think, you know, take that day by day. As you start to see improvements, then back off slightly so you're not micromanaging. But there's no magic fix for that right now. You know, a lot of parents are doing it. They've got to keep on, you know, but back away when you can so that you can trust your kids more.
Oh, thank you so much, Jo, because I know you do find it quite difficult at points, don't you, being a single mum, but you are an absolute rock star and you are doing so well.
You.
Jo, thank you
and
so
you're working.
Yeah.
You know, you're working, you're providing for your family, and a lot of families are in that situation. But like I've told every family, and I do want to say, your priority as a family was to keep your kids safe. This is, you know, a pandemic. Exactly. And that was your top priority, you know, to keep all your family safe. That's what comes first. So to all you mums out there, you know, you're rocking it.
Thank you so much, Jo. Well, look, you're going to be sharing even more pearls of wisdom in Supernanny US, which is on E4 tonight at 9 o'clock. But honestly, we hugely, hugely appreciate you talking to us this afternoon, and you enjoy the rest of your night there over in the US.
Yeah, thanks.